My daughter canceled Christmas 3 days before Christmas Eve because, according to her, I was confused. That was the word she used. Not overwhelmed, not tired, not mistaken. Confused. Amy called me at 8:14 on a Monday morning while I was standing in my kitchen making a list of things I still needed from Kroger. Potatoes, heavy cream, fresh green beans, the cinnamon rolls Lily liked even though she always said she was too old for them now. My ham was already in the refrigerator. 6 place settings were stacked on the dining room table because I had washed the good plates the night before. "Dad, Christmas Eve at your house is off." I thought she was joking. "What happened?" "Nothing happened." "Then Christmas isn't off," she sighed. "You called Lily yesterday and told her Michael was coming." My hand stopped over the grocery list. "No, I didn't." "Yes, you did." "No." "Dad." There was something in the way she said it, patient, careful, the way adults sometimes speak to small children and very old people when they have already decided correcting them directly would be unkind. I was 70 years old. I did not enjoy discovering my daughter had recently added me to either category. I have not spoken to Michael in almost 7 years. I know. Then why would I tell Lily he was coming here? "That's why I'm worried." I put the pen down. "What exactly are you worried about?" "You've been mixing things up lately." That was new. "What things?" "Dates, conversations." "Which dates?" "I'm not doing this." "You started it." "Dad, please." She lowered her voice. "Lily said you were certain Uncle Mike would be here Christmas Eve." "I never said that." "You may not remember saying it." That sentence changed the conversation. Amy and I had argued plenty over the years. She thought I kept canned food too long. I thought she replaced perfectly good phones because manufacturers changed the camera. She believed every password required 14 characters and a federal security clearance. I believed writing one down in a locked desk was not the collapse of modern civilization. But she had never questioned whether I remembered a conversation that happened the day before. "Put Lily on the phone. She's at work." "Then I'll call her." "Don't." "Why?" "Because she already feels terrible." "For what?" Amy paused, then said, "For upsetting you." That did not sound like Lily. My granddaughter was 19 and had inherited the family habit of saying exactly what she meant at inconvenient times. She might feel guilty about plenty. Simply upsetting me was rarely one of them. Amy continued. "Scott and I are staying home Christmas Eve. Lily will be with us. We can come by Christmas morning for an hour." I looked at the dining room. 6 plates. For years, Christmas Eve had been at my house. It was the one tradition that survived after my wife Margaret died. Amy, her husband Scott, Lily, sometimes my sister June. For 7 years, there had been one empty place we did not discuss. My son Michael's. "You already told everyone." "Yes." "What did you tell them?" Amy became quiet. That was the first moment I knew the word confused had traveled farther than my phone. I said you got mixed up about the plans." "To whom?" "Scott." "Who else?" Lily already knew. "Who else?" "Aunt June." I closed my eyes. "What exactly did you tell June?" "That you'd gotten confused about who was coming, and it might be better to keep Christmas simple this year. There are lies that become dangerous because they are completely invented. Then there are lies that borrow just enough ordinary life to sound kind. I misplace my reading glasses sometimes. Once I drove halfway to the pharmacy before remembering I had transferred the prescription to another location. At Thanksgiving, I called Scott by my brother-in-law's name after 2 glasses of wine. None of those things made me confused about Christmas. "I want you to uncancel it." "No, it's my house." "That isn't the point. It is one of them. Dad, I am not bringing Lily into a situation with Michael because you suddenly decided he was invited. I did not invite him." "You told Lily?" "No." Amy stopped. I heard her breathing. Then she said, "I have a meeting in 10 minutes. That is convenient. I'll call later." "No. Answer one question." "What?" "Have you spoken to Michael?" Silence. Long enough that I knew I had finally asked something she had not prepared for. "No." The answer came eventually. "He hasn't been part of our lives for years." Then she ended the call. I stayed in the kitchen with the grocery list in front of me. I did not call Lily, not yet. I did not call June either. Instead, I started doing something I had done for 36 years before retirement. I checked the timeline. I had managed dispatch operations for a regional food distributor outside Columbus, Ohio. Not glamorous work. Trucks, warehouses, temperature logs. drivers insisting they arrived at 7:20 when the dock scan said 7:43. I learned early that memory is useful, but timestamps are less emotional. The previous day had been Sunday. I went to the 9 o'clock service at St. Matthew's, stopped at Giant Eagle afterward, home by 11:30. Watched the Browns disappoint me for 3 hours. Lily had not called. I had not called Lily. My phone confirmed it. No incoming call, no outgoing call, no text conversation. That did not prove Amy was lying. Lily could have misunderstood something from an earlier day. I checked Saturday. Nothing. Friday. A text from Lily asking whether she could bring a friend to Christmas Eve dinner. I had answered, of course. Just tell me if she eats ham. Lily. She eats everything. It's horrifying. No Michael, no Uncle Mike, no guest list confusion. I was about to call Lily when my phone buzzed with a notification from the security camera system. Not a current alert, a storage reminder, 2 events pending review. The camera had been Margaret's idea. After someone stole 2 packages from our porch 4 Christmases earlier, she insisted we install a doorbell camera and another camera facing the driveway. I told her we were turning the house into Fort Knox. She told me Fort Knox probably had better Wi-Fi. After she died, I kept the cameras because removing them felt like more work than leaving them alone. Most recordings were useless. Delivery trucks, squirrels, Lily arriving and making faces at the doorbell lens. I opened the app. First event, 11:38 p.m., Sunday, front porch. I frowned. I had been asleep by 11. The infrared image appeared. A man walked up my driveway. Dark jacket, baseball cap, hands in his pockets. He stopped at the bottom step. I knew him before the camera gave me a clear view of his face. Some people change enough over 7 years that you have to search for the person you remember. Michael had changed in exactly that way. Thinner, more gray in his beard, older around the eyes, but still my son. He stood on my porch at 11:38 the night before my daughter canceled Christmas because I had supposedly become confused about whether he was coming. I watched without breathing. Michael did not ring the bell. He took a padded manila envelope from inside his jacket. On the front, in thick black marker, was one word: Dad. He placed it beneath the small wooden bench beside the door. Then he looked directly at the camera. For several seconds he said nothing. The microphone picked up wind. A car somewhere on the next street. Then Michael spoke. Dad, it's me. My hand tightened around the phone. I'm not coming in. I'm not trying to make trouble. He swallowed. I just wanted you to have this before Christmas. He looked toward the front window. The light had been off. I'll leave it here. Then he walked away. I replayed it. Same words, same envelope, same son. I had not seen Michael Brooks in person since he was 41. I had not heard his voice in almost 5 years, and apparently he had been 12 feet from where I slept the night before. I went to the front door, opened it, looked beneath the bench. Nothing. That was when I remembered the second event. 11:56 p.m., 18 minutes later, I opened it. Amy's Lexus pulled into my driveway. No hesitation, no slow pass. She parked directly beside the mailbox and got out wearing sweatpants, boots, and the red winter coat Margaret gave her 3 Christmases before she died. My daughter walked straight to the porch, straight to the bench. She crouched, picked up Michael's envelope. She did not look surprised to find it. That mattered. Amy turned it over, stood there for several seconds. Then she slid it inside her coat. I leaned closer to the screen. She did not knock. She did not use her key. She went back to the Lexus. The driveway camera showed her sitting behind the wheel with the dome light on. For nearly 6 minutes, she did not leave. At first, I could not tell what she was doing. Then she lifted something into view. The envelope had been opened. Amy pulled out a Christmas card, read it, then removed several folded pages. She read those too. I watched her wipe her face with the back of her hand, crying. That stopped me. This was not a woman stealing a package because she was greedy. Whatever Michael had written hurt her. The final piece was small enough that I almost missed it. Amy held up what looked like a photograph. She stared at it longer than anything else. Then she put everything back inside the envelope, except the photograph. That went into the glove compartment. At 12:04, she drove away. I stayed in my kitchen staring at the frozen image of her empty driveway. 18 minutes. Michael leaves something for me. Amy arrives 18 minutes later, straight to it, reads it, takes part of it, Then by 8:14 the next morning, Christmas at my house is canceled because I am supposedly confused about Michael. I downloaded both recordings, not because I planned to use them against my daughter, because I had spent too many years watching people remember timelines in whatever order hurt least. Then I called Lily. She answered quietly. "Grandpa? Hi." A pause. "Mom called you." "She did?" Another pause. "Are you okay?" I'm trying to answer a simpler question first. "What?" "Did I tell you yesterday that Michael was coming to Christmas?" Silence. Then Lily said, "No." I sat down. "Did I ever tell you that?" "No." "Then why does your mother think I did?" She took a long breath. "Grandpa, I really don't want to do this on the phone." That was not a denial. "What happened?" "Mom found out something." "What?" Another pause. Then Lily said, "About Uncle Mike." My eyes moved to the security camera image still open on my laptop. "Did you know he came to my house last night?" She became completely silent. That answered one question, not the important one. "Lily. Yes. You knew. Yes. Did you send him?" "No." "Did you tell him where I live?" "Grandpa, he knows where I live." Stupid question. Despite everything, she gave a nervous little laugh. Then I asked, "What was in the envelope?" Her voice changed. "I don't know." I believed her. "But you know why he came." Another silence. "Sort of." I looked toward the dining room. 6 clean plates, Margaret's old Christmas runner, the empty chair we had spent 7 years pretending was just another piece of furniture. "Your mother says Michael hasn't contacted anyone in years." Lily said nothing. "Is that true?" "No." The answer was barely above a whisper. "How long?" "Grandpa, how long has he been in contact with you?" She breathed out. "Since June." I closed my eyes. 6 months. My granddaughter had been talking to the son I thought had disappeared from our family. My daughter knew enough about his movements to collect an envelope from my porch before midnight, and somehow I was the confused one. I did not ask Lily anything else. Not then. I told her I loved her, told her I was not angry. Then I ended the call. The ham remained in the refrigerator. The grocery list remained on the counter. Christmas could wait. I had 2 camera recordings, one missing envelope, one daughter who had spoken for my memory, and one son who had apparently spent 6 months closer to this family than anyone had bothered to tell me. Before I decided whether Christmas was canceled, I needed to understand who had actually been keeping whom away. I started with June. My sister was 74, lived 12 minutes away, and had spent most of her adult life refusing to be impressed by anybody in our family. She answered on the 3rd ring. "If this is about Christmas, I already told Amy I'm flexible." "What did she tell you?" "That you got mixed up." "About Michael?" A pause. "Yes." "Did she say I invited him?" "She said you told Lily he was coming." "I didn't." June became quiet. "That's what Lily told me." I straightened. "When?" "Last night." "Lily called you?" "No." I called her because Amy's message sounded strange. That was useful. "What did Lily say?" "That you never told her Michael was coming." I closed my eyes. "So by last night, you already knew Amy's story wasn't accurate." "I knew there was a disagreement." "June." "What?" "There is a difference between disagreement and somebody telling the family I'm confused." "I know." Her voice softened. "That's why I called Lily." "What did Amy say when you challenged her?" "I haven't." "Why not?" "Because I figured you'd call me eventually. There was something comforting about being predictable to your sister." I looked at the laptop. "Amy was at my house last night. She told me." That stopped me. "When?" "After midnight." "She told you that?" "This morning." "What did she say she was doing here?" Another pause. "She said she came by to make sure your doors were locked." I stared at the frozen security image of Amy holding Michael's envelope. "She drove 12 minutes at midnight to inspect my locks." I thought it sounded odd. "Did she say why she was worried about them?" "No." I sat back. Amy had now supplied 2 explanations for the same night. To me, Michael had not contacted anyone. To June, she had come to check my doors. Neither explanation included the envelope beneath my bench. "Did she mention Michael coming here?" "No." "Did she mention an envelope?" "No." June's voice changed. "Richard." My full name was Richard Brooks, though almost everyone called me Rich. June used Richard when she believed I was about to do something dramatic and wanted advance credit for stopping me. "What happened?" "I have camera footage." Silence. Of what? Michael came to my porch at 11:38. June did not speak. He left an envelope for me. Amy came 18 minutes later and took it. Still nothing. June? I'm here. You knew Michael had been in contact with Lily? No. Did you know he was in Columbus? No. That was another fact. I had assumed Michael might have driven in from somewhere. I did not even know where he lived anymore. The last address I had was in Dayton, from years ago. June asked, "Did you call Amy?" Not after seeing the footage. Good. That surprised me. Why? Because if she took something from your porch and then told everybody you were confused, I'd rather hear why she did it before she knows exactly what you know. That was my sister. Not suspicious by nature, just allergic to giving someone time to improve a weak story. Do you remember the last time Michael contacted me? June sighed. Rich. That is a question. I know. When? I thought it was after Margaret got sick. No. The answer came automatically. He sent flowers when she was diagnosed. No card. You're sure? Yes. I was. Or I thought I was. Margaret had been diagnosed with ovarian cancer 4 years earlier. She died 22 months later. Michael's flowers arrived the week after we told family. White roses. Margaret hated white roses because she said they looked like flowers somebody ordered when they did not know you. Amy read the florist card. It said only, "Thinking of you," no name. Margaret said, "That's Michael." I asked how she knew. She said, "Because everybody else knows I like yellow." I had assumed she was right. June said, "I thought he called later." He didn't. Maybe he called Margaret. I looked toward the hallway. What makes you say that? I don't know, something she said. When? Near the end. What? June took a long time. She asked me whether you were ever going to forgive him. I felt the old tension enter my shoulders. For what? For being Michael, probably. That isn't funny. I wasn't joking. The trouble with my son had started 7 years earlier, but not because of one argument. People like to reduce family estrangements to one scene, one insult. One door slammed, one Christmas ruined. Usually there are 20 scenes. The last one just gets the title. Michael was 39 when his marriage ended. Within 6 months, he lost his sales job. Then the drinking got worse. I say worse because it had already been there. A few beers became 4. 4 became bourbon after dinner. Then bourbon started appearing before dinner. The event I could never get past involved Lily. She was 12. Michael had promised to take her to a Clippers baseball game while Amy and Scott attended a wedding. He arrived at Amy's house smelling like alcohol. Scott noticed. There was an argument in the driveway. Michael insisted he was fine. Scott took his keys. Michael shoved him. Not a beating, not a brawl, one hard shove. Scott went backward into the side of the garage. Lily saw it. She cried. Michael left on foot. When I heard about it, I went to his apartment the next morning. I did not handle it well. I told him he had become the kind of man I would not have allowed near my children when they were young. There are sentences fathers remember because they were wise. That was not one of mine. Michael looked terrible. He said, "I wasn't going to drive her." I said, "You showed up with keys in your hand." He said Scott was lying. I said the smell of whiskey was not. Then I told him not to come to our house drunk again. Somewhere between my anger and his shame, that became something larger. He stopped coming entirely. 3 months later, Margaret told me he had entered an outpatient treatment program. I said, "Good." She asked if I wanted to call him. I said, "He knows our number." That sentence aged badly. Michael called twice over the next year. The first time, I was out. Margaret spoke to him. The second time, I answered. We lasted 4 minutes. He apologized for frightening Lily. I asked whether he was drinking. He said no. I asked whether he expected that answer alone to repair everything. He told me I was conducting an interview instead of having a conversation. I told him responsibility often felt like an interview to people avoiding it. He hung up. That was 5 years ago. I had not heard his voice since. Until the security camera. June said, "You still there?" Yes. I never knew about the second call. Not much to know. Apparently. I let that pass. Then she said, "Rich, Margaret may have talked to him after that." I stood. What? I said may have. Why do you think that? Because once, at the hospital, she told me she was tired of the two of you waiting for the other one to become easier. I did not like how accurately that described us. Did she say she'd spoken with him? No. Did she say Amy had? No. Then don't turn a sentence into evidence. You asked what I remembered. Fair. After we hung up, I did not call Amy. I texted Lily instead. Would you come by when you get off work? Just you. I need to understand something, and I'm not asking you to choose sides. She answered 3 minutes later. 4:30. Lily arrived at 4:22 carrying 2 coffees. Margaret used to say the girl had never been late because she considered clocks a personal challenge. She put 1 cup in front of me. Decaf. I'm not 90. Mom said you've been drinking too much coffee. Your mother currently has credibility problems. Lily almost smiled. Then she sat. She was Margaret around the eyes. That had become more noticeable as she got older. I did not tell her that often because 19-year-old girls do not always enjoy being compared to their dead grandmother. I'm not angry with you, I said. I know. Do you? Mostly. Good enough. I turned my phone around and showed her the first camera clip, Michael on the porch. Lily watched without speaking, then the second, Amy taking the envelope. By the time it ended, Lily looked sick. You didn't know she took it? No. But you knew he was coming? Yes. How? Uncle Mike told me. When? Yesterday afternoon. What exactly did he say? That he wanted to leave you something. Did he say what? No. Did he plan to come to Christmas? No. That answer was immediate. So where did that story come from? Lily looked down. I think from me. How? I told Mom he was thinking about contacting you before Christmas. When? Yesterday. What time? Around 6. And you told her he might come here? Yes. Did you tell her when? No. That made the 18-minute gap even more interesting. How did she know? I don't know. Did Michael tell her? I don't think so. You've been talking to him since June. Yes. Why? Lily wrapped both hands around her coffee. I looked him up. Why? Because I barely remembered him. That hurt more than it should have. She had been 12 at the driveway incident. After that, Michael became a family reference instead of a person. What did you find? His company page first. Company? He works for an industrial supply place in Dayton, sales manager. So he was employed. That was new. I messaged him. Did he answer? 2 days later. What did he want? Nothing. Everybody wants something. Grandpa. Fine. What did you talk about? Normal stuff. School, work, Grandma. I looked at her. Your mother knew. Not at first. When did you tell her? October. What did she say? Lily swallowed. She got really upset. Because of what happened when you were 12? Partly. What was the other part? She said he had hurt Grandma. That was new. How? She wouldn't say. I leaned back. Did Michael? He says he didn't know what Mom meant. Do you believe him? I don't know. Good answer. What does he say about those years? Lily hesitated. He says he didn't disappear. I said nothing. He says he tried. The kitchen felt different. Who did he try with? Grandma. Not me. That should not have surprised me. It did. And Mom. What did he say about Amy? Lily's eyes lifted to mine. That she told him you didn't want him contacting you. I stared at her. When? After Grandma got sick. What exactly? He showed me a text. From your mother? Yes. Do you have it? No, it was on his phone. What did it say? Lily thought carefully. Something like, Dad is barely holding it together. Please don't make this about reconciliation right now. Mom doesn't need the stress either. That sounded like Amy. Not cruel, protective, certain. The kind of message I could imagine being sent during the worst months of Margaret's treatment. It also did not say I had asked her to send it, because I hadn't. Did Michael respond? Yes. What did he say? He asked if Grandma wanted him to stay away. I leaned forward. And? Mom wrote, she gets confused after treatment. Don't put her in the middle. I stopped breathing for a second. There was that word again, confused, used about Margaret, now used about me. Lily watched my face. Grandpa? I'm fine. For once I understood why that answer did not reassure anyone. When was this? 4 years ago, I think. Did your grandmother get confused after treatment? Sometimes? She got tired, nauseated. Once she forgot where she left her purse and accused me of moving it. I remembered the day. The purse was in the refrigerator. We laughed about it for months, but Margaret remained capable of knowing whom she wanted to speak with. I looked toward the front porch. Amy had not invented Michael's problems. She had good reasons to distrust him, so did I. But for the first time, another possibility entered the room. Maybe my son's absence had not been one long decision made by him. Maybe some of us had been making pieces of that decision for each other, and Amy had used the same word both times she needed everybody else to stop asking what the person at the center actually wanted. I did not say that to Lily. She was 19. Whatever Amy had done, I was not going to turn my granddaughter into a witness for the prosecution. Does Michael know you told me about those texts? No. Does he know your mother knows you've been talking to him? Yes. How did that go? Lily looked at her coffee. Badly. Define badly. She cried. That surprised me. Amy? Yes. Angry crying? Mom doesn't really separate them. Fair. What did she say? That I didn't understand what Uncle Mike had put everybody through. Do you? Not all of it. Neither do I, apparently. Lily looked up. She said he scared her. That stopped me. When? Back then? The driveway? Not just that. I waited. She said there were nights Grandma would call her because Uncle Mike was drunk and saying weird things. I knew some of that, not all. Michael had called Margaret during the worst year of his drinking, sometimes at midnight, once at 3 in the morning. Margaret usually told me it was handled. I let handled mean I did not need to know. What kind of weird things? She wouldn't tell me. Then we won't guess. Lily nodded. I asked for Michael's number. She hesitated. Not because she wanted to protect him from me, because she wanted to protect both of us from whatever happened when I used it. I'm not promising anything, I said. I know. I'm not inviting him to Christmas. I know. I just need to ask him what he left on my porch. She unlocked her phone. Can I text him first? Why? So he doesn't think you're calling to yell at him. I almost objected. Then remembered the last conversation Michael and I had. 4 minutes of questions that sounded more like a disciplinary hearing. Fine, Lily typed. Grandpa saw the camera. He knows you came. He wants to call you. Is that okay? 3 dots appeared almost immediately, then disappeared, then returned. Finally, yes. A second message arrived. Please tell him I wasn't coming to Christmas unless he asked me. Lily turned the phone toward me. There was the title of Amy's story collapsing in one sentence. Michael had not believed he was invited. He had not planned to walk into Christmas Eve. He had not asked Lily to tell me he was coming. Whatever Amy feared, it was not something I had announced. Lily gave me the number and left at 5:15. I waited until 5:37 to call. I wish I could say I used those 22 minutes to prepare something thoughtful. Mostly, I washed the same coffee cup twice. Michael answered after one ring. Dad! I had heard his voice on the camera. Hearing it through the phone was different. Michael! Neither of us spoke. There are people you can go years without talking to and still know the exact shape of their silence. His was the same. He had always waited me out. Finally, I said, I saw the porch video. I figured. Amy took the envelope. Another silence. I know. That surprised me. How? Because I told her I left it. I sat down. When? Right after. You told Amy? Yes. Why? Because I was done sneaking around. That was not the answer I expected. What did you say? I texted her from my car. Do you still have it? Yes. Read it. Michael hesitated. Then I heard movement. He was probably opening the message. I wrote, I left Dad a letter. I'm not showing up Christmas unless he asks. I'm not asking Lily to carry messages anymore. Stop deciding what he can handle. I looked at the security camera timestamps. Michael left my porch at 11:39. Amy arrived at 11:56. 17 minutes. How long after you left did you send that? Minute or two. So she knew exactly where the envelope was. I guess. You didn't tell her to pick it up. No. Did she answer? Not until after midnight. What did she say? Another pause. You had no right to do this tonight. Anything else? Then, Dad is already getting confused. You were not dumping this on him at Christmas. My hand tightened around the phone. Already? That's what she wrote. Did you ask what she meant? Yes. And? She didn't answer that. There was now a written version of the same explanation Amy had given the family, not invented after I questioned her, prepared before 8 the next morning. The word confused had been part of her response to Michael before she ever called me. What was in the envelope? My Christmas card. What else? A letter. How long? 4 pages. About us. I let the words sit there. And printouts of messages. With Amy? Yes. How many? Enough. That is not a number. He gave a tired little laugh. Still you. Still avoiding numbers. 14 pages. That was more than I expected. Why print them? Because if I just told you what happened, you'd think I was remembering it in whatever way made me look better. That irritated me because it was probably true. What happened? I tried to come back. You were drinking. At first. There was no defensiveness in his answer. Then I got sober. You went to outpatient. I relapsed 11 months later. That was new. For how long? 6 days. 6? Yes. What happened? I called my sponsor before I went to work drunk. He drove me to an intensive outpatient program. I started over. How long have you been sober now? 5 years and 3 months. I did the arithmetic. That meant he had been sober more than a year before Margaret died. I had not known. You never told me. I tried. I almost argued, then remembered why I had called. Through Amy, at first. What does that mean? I called the house. When? During Mom's treatment. I never got those calls. I know. Did Margaret? Yes. My throat tightened. How often? Not a lot. Michael, maybe 6 or 7 times. I stood. You spoke to your mother 7 times while she had cancer, and she never told me? She told me not to make her choose between talking to me and fighting with you about it. I stared at the wall. That sounds like something convenient for you to remember. I know. His answer came quietly. That's why I sent the messages. What messages? Mom texted me twice from her phone. Margaret had not been a big texter. She preferred calls because she said thumbs were not designed for conversation. What did she write? One was just, proud of you, keep going. I closed my eyes. And the other? Your father loves hard and forgives slow. Don't confuse those. For 1 second, I could hear her voice exactly. Not because the words were sentimental, because they were slightly critical of both of us. That was Margaret. Do you have those texts? Yes. Send screenshots. All right. What else was in the envelope? Michael did not answer immediately. A photograph. I looked toward my laptop. The thing Amy had removed. Of what? Me and Mom. I sat back down. When? 4 years ago. Where? Near the hospital. What hospital? The James. Margaret had received most of her treatment at the James Cancer Hospital at Ohio State. I was there for almost every infusion. Almost. What date? April 12th. I knew I would check. Michael knew I would too. What were you doing there? Seeing her? You just happened to run into her? No. She asked you? Yes. How? Through Amy. That stopped me. What? Amy arranged it. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. That did not fit the theory forming in my head. If Amy had spent 4 years keeping Michael away, why arrange a visit? Explain. Mom wanted to see me. How did Amy know? Because Mom told her. And Amy agreed? Yes. Why secretly? Because Mom didn't want to deal with you saying no before she'd even seen whether I was actually sober. I felt heat in my face. I would not have stopped her from seeing her son. Michael did not answer. What? Dad. What? You had already told her I was not welcome at the house. If you were drinking. I wasn't. I didn't know that. That was the problem. I stood again. This conversation was reminding me why 4 minutes had been our previous record. What happened at the hospital? We talked. About? My drinking, Lily, you, her treatment. How long? Maybe 45 minutes. Who took the picture? He went quiet. Michael. Amy. I stopped. Amy took it? Yes. With whose phone? Hers. Then how do you have a copy? She sent it to me that night. I looked at the security video again. Amy had removed that same photograph from the envelope and put it in her glove compartment. Not because she had never seen it, not because its existence shocked her. She was the person who had taken it. Why was it in the envelope? Because Mom wrote something on the back. What? I wanted you to see it yourself. You don't have another copy? Not with the writing. Did you photograph it? No. What did she write? Michael's voice changed. Dad. Tell me. She wrote it before she died. What? He took a breath. One day, please stop making Amy stand in the doorway between you two. I sat perfectly still. My first instinct was to reject it. Margaret would not have written something that direct on the back of a photograph without telling me. Then I remembered she had spent years telling me things indirectly, because direct conversations with me often became arguments over facts. Why would she write that? I don't know exactly. You must have a theory. Yes. Which is that Amy started out trying to protect Mom. And then she got used to deciding who got through. The words bothered me because they fit too easily. I asked Michael to send me everything digitally. The texts, any emails, the photograph, if he had an image of the front. He agreed. Then I asked the question I had avoided since dialing. Why now? Why the envelope? Yes. Because Lily told me you still do Christmas Eve. That doesn't explain it. No. He was quiet. I turned 46 last month. I waited. I realized I had spent almost 7 years telling myself I was respecting everybody's boundaries. And some of those boundaries were real. I thought of Lily crying in the driveway. Yes. Some I never checked. That landed harder. He continued. I wasn't asking you to forgive me. I wanted you to know I didn't spend all those years not caring. We ended the call without making plans, no Christmas invitation, no promise to talk again. 10 minutes later, 14 image files appeared in a text message. Then 2 screenshots from Margaret's old number. Then the photograph. Michael looked thinner than I remembered from that period. Margaret wore a blue knit cap and the green scarf June had given her. They were sitting on a bench outside the hospital. Michael's arm was around her shoulders. Margaret was smiling. Not the polite smile she used when treatment made her exhausted, and someone wanted a picture anyway. Her real one. I checked the date, April 12th. Then I opened my old calendar. That morning, Amy had driven Margaret to treatment because I had a follow-up appointment with my cardiologist across town. I remembered coming home and asking how the infusion went. Margaret said, long. Amy said, she did fine. Neither mentioned Michael. My working theory was simple now. Amy had controlled contact between my son and the rest of us. First because Michael was genuinely unsafe, then because she no longer trusted any of us to decide for ourselves. She had taken the envelope because it contained proof of that. She had canceled Christmas because Michael was getting close enough to expose it. It made sense. Almost too much sense. Then I enlarged the photograph. There were 3 paper coffee cups on the bench. Margaret held one. Michael held another. The third sat beside him. Whoever took that picture had not just dropped Margaret off and walked away. Amy had stayed. And if she had truly wanted Michael completely outside the family, I could not yet explain why she had once sat down and had coffee with him beside their sick mother. So I went back to the screenshots, not looking for proof that Amy was guilty, looking for the part that did not fit. The oldest message Michael sent me was from March, a month before the hospital photograph. Amy had written, Mom asked about you again. If you're serious about staying sober, I'll help you see her. But I need you to understand something. This cannot become another crisis she has to manage. Michael answered, I understand. Amy, no, you say that when you want me to stop talking. I mean no calls after midnight, no asking her to fix things with Dad, no emotional dumping because you're having a bad day. She is sick. Michael, I understand that too. Then Amy wrote, and if you show up drinking, I will personally walk you back to your car and call someone else to drive you home. That did not sound like a sister trying to erase her brother. It sounded like someone who had learned exactly how much trust she was willing to offer. There were 3 more exchanges before the hospital visit. Amy sent him Margaret's treatment schedule. Michael asked whether flowers were okay. Amy told him no flowers, because the infusion center was already crowded with things Margaret could not take home. Then, the evening before April 12th, tomorrow after treatment, 2:30. Bench by the south entrance if weather is decent. Don't come inside unless she asks. Michael, thank you. Amy, thank Mom. This is what she wants. I read that twice. Then I opened the message from after the photograph. Amy had sent Michael the picture at 7:18 that night. She smiled the whole drive home. Don't make me regret helping with this. Michael answered, I won't. Amy, Dad may take longer. Don't turn that into proof he'll never forgive you. I stopped. That sentence was not the work of someone determined to keep us apart. It was almost the opposite. I continued. 2 weeks later, Michael asked, Think I should send Dad a birthday card? Amy. Yes, keep it simple. Don't ask for anything back. Michael. Think he'll throw it away? Amy. Probably put it in a drawer and pretend he forgot where. I almost smiled. That was annoyingly plausible. Michael. You still think I should send it? Amy. Yes, I checked the date. My 67th birthday. I remembered cards from June, from Amy and Scott, from 2 former co-workers, one from our dentist, which had always seemed excessive. Nothing from Michael. I called him. He answered faster this time. Dad. Did you send me a birthday card 4 years ago? A pause. Yes. To the house? Yes. What did it look like? Blue envelope, stupid sailboat on the front. Why a sailboat? You used to take us to Alum Creek. That was true. Did you put a return address? No. Why? I thought you might throw it away if you saw my name first. I never got it. Michael said nothing. Did Amy know you sent it? Yes. Did she pick it up? I don't know. Did you mail it? Yes. That made the card useless as evidence. Mail disappears. People misaddress things. Even the Postal Service occasionally commits acts more mysterious than family members. I asked him something else. Why did Amy change? What do you mean? She helped you see your mother. She told you to contact me. Yeah. Then later she told you to stay away. Michael was quiet. It wasn't one day. Then what changed? I pushed too hard. That was not the answer I expected. How? Mom started calling me. I know. More than Amy wanted. What does that mean? Mom was having a rough stretch that summer. She'd call late sometimes. Were you drinking? No. Were you asking her for money? No. Were you asking her to fix things with me? Michael hesitated. There it was. Sometimes. How often? Couple times. What did you say? That I didn't know how to talk to you? That sounds familiar. I asked if she thought you'd ever let me back. And? She said you weren't a nightclub. Despite myself, I laughed. Margaret had said that to me once about Michael. He keeps talking about whether you'll let him back in like you have a velvet rope. I had forgotten until that moment. Michael continued. One night I was angry. With me? Yes. About? You told Aunt June that if I really wanted to make things right, I knew where the front door was. I remembered saying something close to that. June told you? Mom did. I rubbed my forehead. The family had apparently operated an unauthorized communications network for years. What did you do? I called Mom and said you didn't get to act like I was the one hiding, when every time I tried to come near you, I got treated like I was still drunk. That was fair? No. He said it immediately. I was mad. What happened? Mom cried. That quieted me. Because of you? Probably because of everything. Michael. I don't know, Dad. His voice hardened. She was sick. I was angry. She wanted both of us fixed before she died. None of those things belonged in one phone call. That was more honest than I expected. What did Amy do? She found Mom upset afterward. And blamed you. She had a reason. That was the second time Michael had defended his sister. Interesting. She called me the next morning and told me if I couldn't talk to Mom without dragging you into it, I needed to stop calling for a while. Did you? Yes. For how long? About 6 weeks. Then, Mom called me again. Through Amy? No. Directly? Yes. And Amy found out. Yes. How? Mom told her. What happened? Michael sighed. Amy and I had a fight. What kind? The kind siblings have when one of them thinks he's finally changed, and the other one remembers every version before that. I understood that sentence, maybe better than I wanted to. After we hung up, I looked at the messages again. My neat working theory had cracked. Amy had not spent 4 years systematically erasing Michael. She had helped him, encouraged him, protected Margaret while still allowing contact. She had even nudged him toward me. Then something shifted. Not because Michael relapsed, because Amy had become convinced that contact itself could destabilize people she loved. That did not explain the missing envelope on my porch. It did not justify telling Lily and June that I was confused, but it changed the motive. Control can grow out of fear just as easily as arrogance. At noon, I called Scott. My son-in-law had been married to Amy for 23 years. If anybody had watched her handle Michael from close range, it was him. He answered from his office. Everything okay? I'm not sure. That sounds ominous. I want to ask you about Michael. He became quiet. Amy, know you're calling. No. Then I'm already in trouble. I'm not asking you to take sides. That sentence usually means somebody is about to hand me a side. Fair. I told him only what I needed to. Michael had been in contact with Lily. I knew Amy had facilitated a hospital visit years earlier. I wanted to understand why her attitude changed. Scott did not answer immediately. Then he said, "You know, she was the one who picked him up when he relapsed." I sat straighter. "No. 5 years ago. The 6-day relapse. You know about it now." "Yes." "Amy found him." "Where?" "A motel off I-70. That surprised me. What was he doing there?" "Trying not to go home." "To his apartment?" "Yes." "Why?" "He was ashamed." I did not ask how Scott knew. Clearly Amy had told him. "What happened?" "She sat with him until his sponsor got there." "How long?" "Most of the night." "Why didn't Margaret and I know?" "Michael begged her not to call you." That irritated me. "And Amy agreed." "Eventually?" "Why?" Scott paused. "Because she thought if you knew about the relapse before he got himself back into treatment, you'd decide it proved everything you already believed." I opened my mouth, then closed it. Would I have? At the time, probably. Scott continued. Amy was furious with him, but she drove him to intake the next morning. I looked down at my hands. My daughter had been carrying pieces of Michael's recovery I never knew existed. She helped him. Yes. Then why keep him away? I don't think that's what she thought she was doing. What did she think she was doing? Managing risk. The phrase sounded like Scott. He worked in commercial insurance. What risk? Michael hurting Lily again, Margaret getting pulled into his recovery, you and Michael turning every conversation into a trial. That last part sounds biased. It is. At least he admitted it. Scott lowered his voice. Rich, Amy spent years being the person everybody called after the bad conversation. I said nothing. You'd argue with Michael, Margaret called Amy. That happened? Yes. Michael got angry at Margaret. Margaret called Amy. I remembered the crying phone call Michael had just admitted. Lily asked why her uncle disappeared. Amy handled it. I would have answered her. Maybe. I did not enjoy that maybe. Scott continued. When Margaret got sick, Amy started arranging appointments, meals, rides, everything. She got used to being the person who decided what problem could wait until tomorrow. And then she never stopped. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. There was a pause. Then Scott said, But I think you're missing something. What? She wanted you and Michael to reconcile. Then? Yes. What changed? I don't know all of it. That sounded evasive. What do you know? Scott sighed. After Margaret died, Amy told me there were things your wife had asked her to handle. What things? She never gave me details. Messages? I don't know. Letters? Another pause. That one was different. Scott. I saw an envelope once. My grip tightened on the phone. When? A few days after the funeral. What did it say? I didn't open it. Who was it addressed to? You. I stood. What happened to it? Amy had it. Why? She said Margaret gave it to her at the hospital. My kitchen suddenly felt smaller. Did she say when she was supposed to give it to me? No. Did you ever see it again? No. After we hung up, I returned to Michael's 14 screenshots. This time I went past the hospital messages, past the arguments, past the months where Amy's tone shifted from encouragement to caution. Near the end was an exchange dated 6 days after Margaret died. I had skimmed it before because I was looking for references to me. Now one line stopped me. Michael had written, Did Mom's letter get to Dad? Amy replied, Not yet. Michael, she wanted him to have it. There was no reply beneath that. I checked the date again, 6 days after my wife died, 2 days after her funeral. For 22 months, I had believed Margaret's last words to me were the ones she spoke from a hospital bed while I held her hand. Apparently, she had left something else. And the daughter now telling everyone I was too confused for Christmas had been deciding for almost 2 years whether I was ready to read it. I did not call Amy immediately. That surprised me. For the first 3 days after she canceled Christmas, almost everything I learned made me want to dial her number and demand an explanation. The camera footage, Michael's messages, the hospital photograph, the letter Margaret had apparently left for me. Each fact felt like another reason to stop waiting. But after 36 years of dispatch work, I knew something about bad information. If you confront people as soon as you get one piece, you usually receive an explanation designed for that piece. Then you find another fact and need another explanation. Eventually, you spend more time arguing about versions than understanding what happened. So, I sent Amy one text, a still image from my security camera, her standing on my porch with Michael's envelope in her hands. Under it, I wrote, "Please bring me what you took from my porch, and bring Mom's letter too." The message showed as read at 1:07, no response. At 1:19, 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again, then nothing. At 2:03, she called. I let it ring twice. "Hi. Dad." She sounded exhausted, not angry. "Are you home?" "Yes. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Bring both." "I heard you." She hung up. Amy arrived in 18. The security camera notified me before she rang the bell. I nearly laughed at that. The same camera she had apparently forgotten existed was now announcing her properly. When I opened the door, she was holding a brown paper grocery bag. No purse, no winter coat, just the bag. "You want coffee?" "No." She walked into the kitchen like she had done 10,000 times before. Then she saw the 6 place settings still stacked on the dining room table. Her face changed. I had not left them there to make a point. At least I did not think I had. Amy sat at the kitchen table. I remained standing. She put the grocery bag between us. "Michael's envelope is in there." "And Margaret's?" "Yes." I sat. For several seconds, neither of us touched the bag. Then Amy said, "I'm sorry I took it." "Why did you?" "I panicked." "That explains a feeling." "I know." "What were you afraid would happen?" "He would show up Christmas Eve." "He told you he wouldn't." "He said unless you asked." "Yes." "And I knew once you read that letter, you might ask." That was more honest than anything she had said Monday morning. "So you canceled Christmas before I could?" She looked down. "Yes." "Then called me confused." Her eyes closed. "I shouldn't have used that word. You used it with Michael before you used it with me." She looked at me. "You've talked to him." "Yes." "How much?" "Enough." Amy rubbed both hands over her face. "Dad, he can be very convincing." That sentence would work better if I had not spent 46 years knowing him. "You didn't know him during the worst of it?" "I knew plenty." "No." Her voice sharpened. "You knew the parts Mom let you know." That stopped me. I waited. Amy continued. "You knew he drank too much. You knew about the baseball game. You knew he shoved Scott. You knew he went into treatment." "Yes." "You didn't know how many nights Mom was on the phone with him." "Apparently not." "You didn't know he called her from parking lots because he was afraid he'd drink." "No." "You didn't know she drove to Dayton once at 1 in the morning." I stared at her. "When?" "The year before her diagnosis." "You went with her?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because she was scared to go alone." I leaned back. "Why didn't she tell me?" "Because you would have gone. That is usually how marriage works. And then you would have taken over." There it was. Not cruel, just familiar. "What does that mean?" "You would have turned it into conditions." "Sobriety should have conditions." "I know." Amy's eyes filled. "But Mom knew what you sounded like when you were disappointed in him." That one landed, she continued. She wanted to get him through the night before anybody started explaining what kind of man he had become. I looked at the grocery bag. "Are you defending what he did?" "No." "Then what are you doing?" Trying to tell you why I stopped believing contact was simple. I said nothing. Amy pulled the brown bag closer. "Michael is telling you the truth about a lot." "A lot?" "Yes." "That sounds carefully chosen." "It is." "What is he leaving out?" "He doesn't always understand what it was like for everybody else." "That is different from lying." "I know." "So answer the question I asked Monday." She looked at me. "Why did you cancel Christmas?" Her jaw tightened. "Because Lily had been talking to him for 6 months." "I know." "She wanted to see him." "That sounds reasonable." "She wanted to bring him here." That was new. "When?" "Christmas Eve." I stared at her. "She told me he wasn't planning to come." "He wasn't." "Then what are you saying?" "She was going to ask you to invite him." I thought about Lily's text from Friday. Could she bring a friend?" "She told me she wanted to bring a friend." Amy nodded. "That was before she decided to tell you." "So she wasn't secretly bringing Michael?" "No." That mattered. Then you canceled Christmas because you were afraid she would ask me. Yes. And afraid I might say yes. Yes, I leaned back. Amy looked miserable, not cornered, miserable. What happens if I say yes to my own son? You have the right. That is not what you acted like. I know. Then why? Her eyes dropped to the bag again. Because Mom gave me that letter. Finally. Why you? Because she knew you'd be angry with her. Margaret was dying. She was still Margaret. That was true. When did she give it to you? 2 nights before she died. I had been at the hospital until almost midnight that night. June took me home because my blood pressure had been high, and the nurses told me I was not helping anyone by sleeping in a chair. Amy stayed. Apparently more happened in those hours than I knew. What did Margaret say? She told me to give it to you after the funeral. I stared at her. So there was no condition. Amy hesitated. Not exactly. What does not exactly mean? She said not while everything was raw. That is not the same as 2 years. I know. Did she tell you to wait for Michael to be sober? He already was. Did she tell you to wait until I was ready? Amy looked away. No. The kitchen went very quiet. What did she actually say? Amy swallowed. She said, give your father a little time to breathe, then give him this and stop carrying messages between those 2 men. I closed my eyes. That sounded like Margaret, painfully. What else? She said, they have made you the hallway long enough. I looked at Amy. The hallway. That was her word. Not doorway, hallway. A place everybody passed through. A place nobody stayed because they wanted to. Amy wiped one cheek. I was angry at her. Why? Because she was dying and still giving me jobs. That was such an Amy sentence that for a moment she was 15 again, responsible for school forms, remembering birthdays, making sure Michael returned things he borrowed. Margaret used to joke that Amy had been born 42. What did you say? I told her I didn't want another job. What did she say? She said that was the point. My throat tightened. Then why didn't you give me the letter? Amy stared at the table. At first, because you were barely functioning. I functioned. You arranged the funeral. Yes. You handled insurance. Yes. You wrote thank you cards. Yes. You didn't sleep. That was also true. You lost 12 pounds in 6 weeks. I gained it back. Dad, I stopped. She continued. You kept doing things because doing things was easier than sitting still. Maybe. 3 weeks after the funeral, I brought the letter over. I looked at her. What? I had it in my purse. You never gave it to me. No. Why? Because that was the day you found Mom's gardening gloves in the garage. I remembered. The green ones. Dirt still under the fingernails. I had sat on the garage step for maybe 20 minutes. Amy found me there. She made tea, stayed until evening. I was grieving. I know. That was not confusion. I know. Then, you said something. What? Amy looked directly at me. You said, at least I don't have to worry about Michael coming back and making this harder. I felt the sentence before I remembered it. Then I did. I had said something like that. Not as policy, not as instruction. As a tired widower relieved that one potential conflict was not in the room, Amy continued, I had Mom's letter in my purse. So you decided for me. Yes. The answer came quietly. Did you tell Michael? No. Did you tell him Margaret left something? He already knew. The message said he asked whether I got it. Yes. What did you tell him after that? That you weren't ready. I never said that. No. So you were speaking for me? Yes. There was no defense now. That made the anger harder to hold cleanly. I reached for the grocery bag. Amy put her hand on it. Before you read it, there's something you need to know. My hand stopped. What? Mom does not tell you to forgive Michael. I had not expected that. She doesn't. No. She doesn't ask you to invite him back. No. Then what is in it? You should read it. I pulled the bag toward me. The first envelope was Michael's, already opened. Inside was the Christmas card, a plain card with a snowy porch on the front, 4 handwritten pages, 14 pages of printed messages, no photograph. I looked at Amy. The picture. She reached into her jeans pocket, pulled it out, placed it on the table. Michael and Margaret outside the hospital, on the back, in Margaret's handwriting. One day, Please stop making Amy stand in the hallway between you two. She has carried enough of both of you, not doorway. Michael had remembered the word wrong, but the meaning was the same. I set it aside. Then Amy removed a second envelope from the grocery bag, cream-colored, my name in Margaret's handwriting. Rich. The seal had been opened. I looked at Amy. You read it? She nodded. When? The hospital? Before she died? Yes. She let you? She asked me to. That was important. I unfolded the letter. Margaret's handwriting had become shakier during the last month. But it was hers. She began without sentiment. Rich, if Amy actually gives you this when I asked, try not to interrogate her before you finish reading. I looked up. Amy almost laughed through her tears. That sounds like her. Yes. I kept reading. Margaret wrote that she had spoken with Michael, that he had been sober more than a year, that sobriety did not erase what he had done. Neither did being a father erase what I had said when I was angry. She wrote, You both keep waiting for the other one to approach correctly. Michael wants you to recognize that he changed before he risks hearing that you still don't trust him. You want him to prove he changed before you risk trusting him. That is a circle, not a boundary. I stopped, read it again, then continued. She told me not to reconcile because she was dying, not to forgive because she wanted peace, not to bring Michael home out of guilt. Then came the sentence that changed what I thought this story was about. I am not asking you to let him back in. I am asking you to make that decision yourself after you know the truth, because too much of this family has been happening through Amy. I looked across the table. Amy was crying openly now. Margaret continued, That is not Amy's fault alone. We trained her. I called her after arguments because she was easier than calling you back. Michael called her because she translated anger into instructions. You asked her what everyone else was thinking because you trusted her judgment. Then we complained when she started deciding what information each of us could handle. My eyes stopped on the last sentence. There it was. Not a villain, a family habit. Built by all of us. Margaret's final paragraph was short. If you do nothing with Michael, let it be because you chose nothing. If you speak to him, let him answer for himself. And please tell Amy she is allowed to be your daughter, instead of the person standing between every closed door. I lowered the paper. For nearly 2 years, Amy had hidden a letter whose central message was that she needed to stop deciding what the rest of us were allowed to know. The irony was so exact it almost felt cruel. I looked at her. Why? She wiped her face. I told myself I was waiting for the right time. For 2 years. Yes. And last night? I saw Michael's envelope and knew if you read it first, you'd find out about Mom's letter. So this was about protecting yourself. Amy looked at me for a long time. Then she said, Partly. That answer hurt more because I believed it. What was the other part? Her mouth tightened. I was afraid you'd invite him. Christmas Eve? Yes. Because of what he did 7 years ago? No. I waited. Amy looked toward the photograph of her mother. Because something happened after Mom died that Michael hasn't told you. There it was. Not a denial of the letter, not another explanation of the past, a new uncertainty. What happened? Amy looked back at me. I tried to bring him home once. I did not move. When? 3 months after the funeral. And? Her voice dropped. He made it as far as your driveway. I stared at her. I was home. I know. Then why didn't I see him? Amy took a long breath. Because I stopped him before he got to the door. Because I stopped him before he got to the door. I looked at Amy for a long time. You were here? Yes. 3 months after Margaret died. Yes. What was Michael doing in my driveway? He called me first. That is becoming a theme. Amy did not react. He said he wanted to talk to you. About what? Mom, the funeral, everything. I leaned back. Michael had not attended Margaret's funeral. At the time, I told myself that was his choice. I was angry about it. More than angry. I remember standing in the church vestibule afterward, watching families gather around coffee and sandwiches, and thinking my son could not even show up to bury his mother. I had never asked him why. I thought I knew. What did you tell him before the funeral? Amy looked down. That you couldn't handle another problem. So you told him not to come. I told him I didn't think he should. That is different. Not to him. What were your words? She closed her eyes for a second. I said, if you come, Dad will spend the whole funeral waiting for something to go wrong. I felt heat rise into my face. Did I say that? No. Did Margaret say she didn't want him there? No. Then whose decision was it? Amy looked at me. Mine. There was the word again, not confused, not protecting, mine. What did Michael say? That he wanted to sit in the back. And? I said people would notice him. They would. I said Aunt June would tell you. She would. I am sitting right here, I said. What did he say? Amy swallowed. He asked whether you'd throw him out. And what did you tell him? That I didn't know. That was probably the most honest thing she could have said. Then why didn't he come? Because I asked him not to. I looked away. For nearly 2 years I had carried one clean fact against my son. He skipped his mother's funeral. Now, even that fact had fingerprints on it. Amy continued. 3 months later, he called me and said he was done letting me decide. That sounds familiar too. He wanted to come here, and you agreed, at first. What changed? He was angry. That isn't unusual in this family. Dad. What? He wasn't just angry. Her voice tightened. He was worked up, talking fast, blaming you, blaming me, saying he should have ignored me and come to the funeral. Was he drinking? No. Did you think he was? No. Did he threaten you? Amy hesitated. Not exactly. I waited. He said if I tried to stop him again, he was going to tell you everything I had done. What had you done? The messages, the funeral, Mom's letter? So he was threatening to tell me the truth. That isn't all he said. What else? Amy looked toward the front window. He said, if Dad shuts that door in my face, at least I'll finally know which one of you I'm done with. That sounded like Michael. Ugly, dramatic, also not a threat. What happened when he arrived? I got here first. You waited outside? Yes. You didn't come in? No. Why? Because if I came inside, I knew I'd have to tell you. I said nothing. She continued. Michael pulled in behind me. He got out. I told him to go home. And? He said no. Did he try to walk past you? Yes. Did he touch you? No. Raise his voice? Yes. How loud? Loud enough? Amy. She rubbed her forehead. He wasn't screaming, but he was angry. What did you do? I told him if he walked up to the porch, I would call Scott. Not the police. No. Why Scott? Because I was scared this would turn into another driveway. The baseball game incident. Michael drunk. Scott against the garage. Lily crying. 7 years can pass quickly when one picture refuses to age. What did Michael do? He hit the roof of his car with his hand. Once, Amy demonstrated without meaning to, a flat palm against the table. And then, he said something I'm not proud of repeating. I am 70 years old. He said, you don't get to use the worst thing I ever did every time you want to win. I looked at her. Was he wrong? Amy's eyes filled. No. That answer mattered. What did you say? That sober didn't mean safe. Michael had told me Amy remembered every version of him before the current one. Now I understood what he meant. And then? He got back in the car. He left. Yes. You never told me. No. He never told me. No. Why? I don't know why he didn't. That gave me something to verify. Amy reached into the grocery bag again and pulled out her phone. I kept the messages from afterward. She opened them and slid the phone toward me. Michael. You had no right, Amy. Neither did you. Dad didn't invite you. Michael. Because you make sure he never gets the chance. Amy. He told me after Mom died that he didn't want you making things harder. Michael. That is not the same as telling me himself. Then Amy. You were furious in his driveway. What exactly did you think was going to happen if he opened the door? Michael. I don't know. That's why I needed to knock. I stopped there. That line bothered me. Not because it proved Michael right, because it described our entire family. Everybody had been trying to predict what would happen if somebody knocked. Nobody knocked. I pushed the phone back. Why did this make you hide Margaret's letter longer? Because I thought she had been wrong. About what? That you and Michael could handle each other directly. I almost argued, then remembered our last 4-minute phone call 5 years earlier. Maybe Amy had evidence. That did not give her authority, but it gave her fear a shape. After she left, I sat alone for almost an hour. The ham was still in the refrigerator. I had bought it for 6 people. It had become ridiculous how often I noticed that ham. Around 4, I called Michael. He answered. Amy told me about the driveway. Silence. Okay. Did you hit your car? Yes. Did you yell? Yes. Were you drinking? No. Were you out of control? A pause. I don't think so. That is not the same answer Amy would give. I know. Why didn't you tell me? Michael sighed. Because it made me sound like the version of myself I was trying to prove I wasn't. That was honest. And because I was ashamed. Of getting angry. Of letting Amy push the same button she'd been pushing for years. What button? That nobody trusted me. I sat back. Did you intend to confront me? Yes. About Margaret's funeral? Yes. About Amy? Yes. Would you have done it calmly? Michael laughed once. Probably not. That weakened something in me, not my belief that Amy had overstepped, my belief that all she had done was manufacture danger. There had been danger, not physical maybe, but emotional, the kind that destroys a first conversation before either person gets through the opening sentence. I need to ask you something else, okay? If you had reached my porch that day, what did you want from me? Michael took a long time. I wanted you to say I should have been at Mom's funeral. I closed my eyes. Not forgiveness, not money, not an apology. Permission to have belonged at his mother's funeral. I did think you should have been there. He became silent. I was furious you weren't. Dad, I thought you chose not to come. I didn't know. That is my point. Neither of us said anything for several seconds. Then, before I had thought it through properly, I said, "Come Christmas Eve." Silence. What? Dinner, 6. Dad. You wanted me to decide for myself. Yes, but I was angry. Not at Michael exactly. At years of people making decisions for one another and calling it protection. I wanted one decision nobody could edit. Come Christmas Eve, Michael breathed slowly. Does Amy know? No. Lily? No. Then maybe you should. I am inviting you to my house. Not applying for a permit. That sounded satisfying when I said it. It felt less satisfying 10 minutes later. Amy called before I had time to reconsider. Michael had apparently told Lily. Lily told Amy. Our family communications network remained efficient when it wanted to be. You invited him? Yes. For Christmas Eve? Yes. After everything we just talked about? Especially after. Amy went silent. Then she said, We won't be there. I stared at the wall. That is your choice. Scott won't bring Lily into that. Lily is 19. She lives with us. That does not make her 12. No, Amy's voice tightened. But she was 12 when your son showed up drunk to take her in a car. I remember. Do you? I stood. That is not fair. Neither is deciding 5 years sober erases what she saw. I didn't say it did. You invited him without asking anybody how they felt. The sentence stopped me because it was accurate in a way I disliked. I shouldn't need permission to invite my son to my house. No. Amy's voice softened. But if you expected the rest of us to sit at the same table, you might have asked whether we were ready. There it was. I had spent 3 days furious that Amy treated my decision like an inconvenience. Then, at the first opportunity, I had treated everybody else's fear the same way. Not equal wrongs, but related ones. I'll call you back. You don't have to. I know. I ended the call. Then Scott called. He was calmer. That made him harder to argue with. If Michael is there Christmas Eve, Amy and I aren't coming. Understood. I'm not telling you not to see him. Good. I'm telling you I'm not putting Amy at that table with no warning beyond a phone call from Lily. I understand, and Lily can decide for herself. That surprised me. She's an adult, Scott said. I don't like it, but she's an adult. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. She's furious at her mother. I closed my eyes. Why? Because she thinks Amy has been keeping her uncle away for years. That is partly true. Partly is doing a lot of work. Again, fair. By 7 that evening, the Christmas cancellation I had resented had become something worse. A divided Christmas nobody knew how to repair. June planned to come to my house. Lily said she would too. Amy and Scott would stay home. Michael was driving from Dayton unless I changed my mind. I had reclaimed the right to choose, then used it so quickly that I had created another family decision around people instead of with them. At 8:20, Michael called again. "I'm not coming Christmas Eve." I sat down. "Why?" "Because Lily just called me crying." "What happened?" "She had a fight with Amy." I rubbed my forehead. Michael continued. "I want to see you." "Good. But I am not walking into your Christmas dinner as the reason your daughter stays home. She made that choice. And you made yours." I did not answer. "I think our first conversation should be just us." That was more restraint than I had shown. "When?" "Whenever you want." I looked at Margaret's letter. Let him answer for himself. "Tomorrow." "Okay, 10 o'clock. I'll be there." After we hung up, I called Amy. She did not answer. I left no voicemail. For the first time since this started, I understood that discovering somebody had controlled my choices did not give me permission to stop considering theirs. Amy had hidden things. Michael had frightened people. Margaret had used Amy as a messenger. I had made judgment sound like love often enough that my family learned to communicate around me. Nobody had created this alone, and tomorrow morning, for the first time in 7 years, my son was going to walk through my front door without my daughter standing between us. I no longer knew whether that would solve anything. I only knew it had to happen before any of us deserved to call someone else confused. Michael arrived at 9:56. I knew because the driveway camera told me. For once, the notification did not reveal anything I was not supposed to know. He parked a dark gray Honda Accord near the curb instead of pulling into the driveway. That detail made me sad for reasons I could not explain. When my children were young, neither one knocked. They opened the door, raided the refrigerator, complained about whatever I had changed since the last visit. 7 years had reduced my son to somebody who stood on the porch and waited for permission. I opened the door before he rang. For a few seconds we looked at each other. The camera had not shown how much older he seemed. 46. Gray at both temples. A crease between his eyebrows I did not remember. He held a bakery box in one hand. "Lily said you still like bear claws." "I do." I didn't know what else people bring to a first meeting with their father after 7 years. That sentence probably isn't in the etiquette book. "No." I stepped aside. "Come in." Michael crossed the threshold. Nothing happened. No explosion. No argument. No Margaret appearing to tell us we had both wasted enough time. He looked toward the dining room. The Christmas dishes were still stacked there. "I'm sorry about Christmas." "You didn't cancel it." "No." He took off his jacket and draped it over the back of a chair, then changed his mind and folded it over the chair more carefully. Nervous. I recognized the behavior because I was doing my own version of it by unnecessarily straightening the coffee filters. "Coffee?" "Yes." "Regular?" "Yes." "You still take cream?" "Black now." "Getting old." Apparently, we sat across from each other. The bakery box remained unopened. For almost a minute, neither of us spoke. Then Michael said, "I owe you an apology." I resisted the instinct to ask which one. "For disappearing." "You didn't completely disappear." "No." "I'm learning that." He nodded. "But I let Amy become the reason I didn't call you directly." "Why?" "At first, because I was ashamed." "Of the drinking?" "Yes." "Then?" "Because every month I waited made the next call harder. I understood that more than I wanted to," he continued. "And because when I did imagine calling, I imagined you asking whether I was sober before you asked how I was." I looked down at my coffee. "That sounds possible. You did it the last time. I remember. I know you had reasons. That does not make it pleasant." "No." Michael took a breath. "I'm sorry about Lily." The sentence came differently. Not general, not polished. "Tell me what you're sorry for." He nodded once. "For showing up at Amy's house after drinking." "For what else?" "For having my car keys." "For shoving Scott." "Yes." "For making Lily watch adults argue about whether I was safe enough to be around." That was better than I expected. "Did you intend to drive her?" "No." I looked at him. I had told myself I was going to give the keys to Scott when I got there. "Did you tell Scott that?" "No." "Did you hand him the keys?" "No." "Then he had no reason to trust your private plan." Michael nodded. "No." I let that settle. "I spent years telling myself that part mattered," he said. "What part?" "That I wasn't really going to drive." "It matters somewhat." Not enough. No. That was the first clean thing between us. Not forgiveness, agreement. I opened the bakery box, 2 bear claws, 2 plain glazed donuts. You brought 4 pastries for 2 people. I didn't know how long this would take. That almost made me smile. We ate. Then I asked about Margaret's funeral. Michael set down his coffee. Amy asked me not to come. I know. I should have come anyway. I waited. I wanted her to be the reason, he said. Why? Because then I didn't have to admit I was afraid you'd tell me to leave. That was harder to hear. I wouldn't have. You know that now? I looked at him. No. The answer surprised both of us. I think I wouldn't have. Michael nodded slowly. That's fair. What did you do that day? Stayed home? Alone? My sponsor came over around noon. You watched the service? His eyes lifted. There was a live stream? The church had one. I didn't know. That hurt in a stupid practical way. A link could have been sent. Nobody sent it. We had managed to bury Margaret while still maintaining the family habit of assuming somebody else had handled the communication. I went to the cemetery the next morning, Michael said. I looked at him. How did you know where? Aunt June? Of course. She knew you were in contact? A little. June had neglected to mention that. I made a note to annoy my sister later. Then I asked about the driveway visit. Michael confirmed most of Amy's version. He had been angry. He had raised his voice. He hit the roof of his car. He had wanted to confront me about the funeral and the letter. Would that conversation have gone well? No. Then maybe Amy prevented a bad day. Michael rubbed his thumb against the coffee cup. Maybe. That answer mattered. You're allowed to say she was right about something. I know. She helped you see your mother. Yes. She took you to treatment after your relapse. Yes. She protected Lily when you weren't safe. Yes. He looked at me. That's why this is complicated. Good. I had been waiting to see whether he needed Amy to become the villain before he could become the injured party. He didn't. That increased my trust in him more than any screenshot. Then Michael reached into his jacket. Can I show you something? He pulled out his phone. This wasn't in the envelope. Why not? I didn't know what it meant. He found an old message thread. Amy. The date was 2 nights before Margaret died. Michael had written, Mom texted me to call when she wakes up. Is she awake? Amy answered 12 minutes later. She's heavily medicated and confused. Not tonight. Michael. Did she ask for me? Amy. She's asking for lots of things and forgetting what she asked for. Let her rest. I read it twice. Did Margaret text you herself? Yes. Show me. He opened another thread. Margaret's number. The message had been sent at 6:43 that evening. Mikey, call me later if awake. Love you. Mikey. She had not called him that in front of me since he was in high school. I felt something shift in my chest. What happened? I called the next morning. Did she answer? No. Amy? No. What time? 8:20. I remembered that morning. Margaret had been awake early, lucid, weak but lucid. She asked me to open the blinds, complained that the hospital coffee tasted like somebody had threatened a coffee bean with hot water. At 9:10, her breathing worsened. By noon, she was mostly sleeping. She died the following evening. Did you ever speak to her again? Michael shook his head. No. I looked at Amy's message, confused. There was that word, again. Used to turn another person's stated wish into something dismissible, but I forced myself not to jump. Were you calling her too much? Michael frowned. What? During those last days? No. Were you upsetting her? I don't think so. That is not proof. His jaw tightened. I recognized the change immediately. What do you want me to say? The truth. I am. Then tell me whether Amy had a reason to block that call. Michael pushed his chair back slightly. This is exactly what I meant. What? You take one fact and start cross-examining until the person who got hurt has to prove he deserved to be hurt. I felt my own anger rise. I am trying not to repeat the mistake I made with your sister. What mistake? Assuming the ugliest explanation first. So instead, you assume I probably did something. I asked. No. His voice sharpened. You asked whether Amy had a reason. That's different. Because she often did. Michael stood. There it was. The first real crack. 7 years disappeared quickly. You want to know why I didn't call? He said. I am listening. No, you're evaluating. That is how people determine whether something is true. Sometimes you determine whether somebody is worth believing before they finish. I stood too. Do not turn caution into a character defect because it makes your story easier. He stared at me, then looked away. For a second I thought he would leave. My stomach tightened. Not because I wanted to win, because I suddenly understood how easy it would be for both of us to prove every warning Amy had ever given. Michael picked up his jacket, then stopped. He did not put it on. He leaned both hands on the back of the chair. When he spoke again, his voice was quieter. I nearly drank after Mom died. I said nothing. 3 days after the funeral, my anger disappeared. I bought a bottle. Did you drink it? No. Why not? I sat in the parking lot of a liquor store with it on the passenger seat for about 20 minutes. He looked at me. Then I called Amy. That surprised me. What did she do? Drove 40 minutes to get me. Again? Yes. She took the bottle? Yes. What happened? She cried. Michael swallowed. And told me if I ever made her do this again, she was done. Were you angry? Yes. At her? At everybody. Did you say anything threatening? No. Are you sure? His face hardened again. Then he closed his eyes. I said if Mom hadn't died thinking you hated me, maybe I wouldn't need the bottle. I sat down. Michael remained standing. That was cruel. Yes. Amy had just lost her mother. Yes. And you made her responsible for how you handled it. Yes. He sat again. So, when you ask whether she had reasons to think a call between me and Mom could go badly, the answer is yes. That was not where I expected the conversation to go. She had reasons, he repeated. She also had no right to decide every call. No. Both could be true. That was becoming the most difficult part of this story. At 11:40, Michael left. Not healed, not estranged. We agreed to speak again after Christmas. That counted as progress. Then, before he stepped onto the porch, he turned. Dad? Yes? If Amy really stopped that last call because Mom was confused, I can live with it. I waited. But if Mom was awake and asking for me, he did not finish. He didn't need to. After he drove away, I went upstairs and opened the notebook I kept during Margaret's final hospital stay. Medication times, doctor names, questions I wanted to remember. On the page for that evening, at 7:05, I had written, M awake, clear, asked about kids, wants Amy tomorrow, asked if Mike knows she's here. I stared at the line. Not proof Amy lied. Confusion can come and go. Medication changes things by the hour. But Margaret had been clear enough that evening for me to write the word myself. Clear. At 6:43, she had texted Michael to call. At 7:05, I recorded that she was awake and asking about him. 12 minutes after Michael asked whether she was awake, Amy told him Margaret was heavily medicated and confused. I closed the notebook. For the first time, I was not wondering whether Amy had hidden information to protect herself. I was wondering whether one of the last choices my wife ever made had been taken away from her for exactly the same reason Christmas had been taken away from me. Someone else believed they knew what she could handle. Someone else believed they knew what she could handle. The trouble was, I had helped create that belief. At 7:05 that night, I had written, M awake, clear, asked about kids, wants Amy tomorrow, asked if Mike knows she's here. I had a phone in my pocket. Michael's number was not in it anymore, but June had it. Amy had it. Margaret probably had it in her own phone. I could have found it in 5 minutes. Instead, I wrote the question down. That was what I did when doctors came into the room. Write it down. Ask later. Handle the next thing. I had apparently treated my wife asking about her son the same way I treated a question about medication dosage. Something for later. And later had run out. I went upstairs and opened the drawer where I kept Margaret's old phone. I had not turned it on in more than a year. The battery was dead. I found the charging cable in the box with her hearing aid batteries, plugged it in, and waited. When the screen finally came on, her photograph appeared behind the passcode keypad. Margaret standing beside a sunflower taller than she was. For a moment, that was enough to make me close my eyes. Then I entered the code, our anniversary. She considered that insecure. I considered it memorable. The phone opened. Most of the apps no longer worked properly. Email demanded passwords. Several cloud services had signed out, but text messages were still there. I searched Michael's name. Nothing. Then I searched his old number. There it was. Years of messages, not many. More than I had known existed. I did not start at the beginning. I went to the last week. The text Michael had shown me was there. Mikey, call me later if awake. Love you. 6:43 p.m. No reply in that thread because Michael apparently called or attempted to call separately. I opened the call history. It only went back so far. Nothing useful. Then I noticed something else. At 8:31 that same evening, Margaret had sent Amy a text. Did he call? Amy answered, "Not tonight, Mom. Rest, Margaret." I asked him to. Amy, "I know, tomorrow." Then, "Don't fuss." That was Margaret. Amy replied, "I'm not fussing. You need sleep." Margaret sent one final message. "I need my children more than sleep." There was no answer beneath it. I read that sentence 3 times. Not because it proved a crime. There was no crime. Amy had not unplugged oxygen. She had not forged medical orders. She had made a family decision, one she apparently thought was reasonable. That almost made it worse. I called June. "Do you remember the night before Margaret's breathing got worse?" That narrows it badly. 2 nights before she died, Amy stayed late. June became quiet. "Yes." "Were you at the hospital that evening?" "Until about 7. Was Margaret confused?" June did not answer immediately. "She was medicated." "That wasn't my question." "No." "Was she confused?" "Not when I was there." "What did you talk about?" "She wanted to know whether I'd remembered to bring you food." "That sounds coherent." "She asked whether the Buckeyes had a night game that weekend." "They didn't." "She knew that after I corrected her." "Anything else?" June hesitated. "She asked about Michael." I closed my eyes. "What did she say?" "She asked whether I thought he would come if you called." "Not Amy, me." "What did you tell her?" "That you probably would if she asked." I sat down. "She did ask." "What?" "Not directly." I looked at my notebook. "She asked if he knew she was there." June sighed. "Rich." "I know." For once, I did not need my sister to explain the obvious. After we hung up, I called Amy. She did not answer. I sent a photograph of the notebook page. Then a screenshot of Margaret's messages from her phone. Underneath, I wrote, "I need the truth about that night. No explanations first, just the truth." Amy called 4 minutes later. Her voice was already shaking. "You turned on Mom's phone?" "Yes." "I figured you would eventually." "That is a strange thing to say. I've thought about it for 2 years." "Was she confused that evening?" Silence. "Amy." "No." The answer was almost a whisper. I leaned back. "Then why did you tell Michael she was?" "She had been earlier." "At what time?" "Afternoon. She woke up from medication and thought she was at home." "How long?" "Maybe 10 minutes." "And by 6:43, she was clear." "By 7? "Yes." "By 8:30? "Yes." I gripped the edge of the table. "So you lied to him?" "Yes." "And you told your mother tomorrow?" "Yes." "Why?" Amy started crying. Not loudly. I waited. Finally she said, "Because I couldn't do one more thing." I did not understand. "What does that mean?" I had been there all day. "So?" "Dad, please." "No." "You told a dying woman her son could call tomorrow when you knew she wanted him that night." "Tell me why." Amy breathed unevenly. "Mom had been asking about everybody all day. Aunt June, Lily, you, Michael. She kept trying to fix things." "What things?" "You and him." I closed my eyes. "She wanted me to call him. Then she wanted me to call you back to the hospital. Then she wanted both of you there." And I was afraid." "Of what?" "That Michael would call and she'd start pushing reconciliation again. That was her choice. I know that now." "You knew it then." Amy did not answer. "You knew." "Yes." That hurt. "What did you think would happen?" "She'd ask him to come." "Would that have been terrible?" "At the time, I thought it could be." "Why?" "Because you were exhausted. Michael was grieving. Mom was dying. Every conversation between you two turned into a fight." "So you decided nobody should have the conversation?" "Yes." Her voice broke. "I thought there would be another day." There it was. The sentence almost every family disaster eventually contains. "I thought there would be another day." "You told Michael tomorrow." "Yes." "You told Margaret tomorrow." "Yes." "And the next morning?" "I called him." "What time?" "After 9. His phone shows he called at 8:20. "I know." "Did you see the call?" "Yes." I stood. "You saw it?" "Yes." "Did Margaret's phone ring?" "No." "Why?" Amy became silent again. "Why?" "I had it." My stomach tightened. "Her phone?" Yes? Where? In my purse. I stopped moving. She asked me to charge it the night before. I put it in my purse when I left and forgot. Forgot. At first. Those two words changed everything. At first? Amy was crying harder now. I saw his call the next morning, and you didn't answer. No. Did you call him back? Later. When? After Mom's breathing got worse, I looked at the hospital notebook. At 9:10, I had written, breathing more labored. Nurse called respiratory. When did you bring Margaret's phone back? Late morning. Could she still talk? Not much. I sat down slowly. Did she ask about Michael? Yes. The answer almost did not come out. What did you tell her? Amy did not respond. Amy? I told her he had tried. That was not what I asked. What words? I said, he called Mom. He knows. I closed my eyes. Did you tell her you would stop the call? No. Did she think he chose not to speak to her? I don't know. You do. No, Dad, I really don't. Her voice sharpened through the tears. She was tired. She nodded. I don't know what she understood. For a moment, anger filled every available space. I wanted to tell Amy she had stolen something no apology could return. A final conversation. Maybe only 2 minutes. Maybe Michael would have cried. Maybe Margaret would have told him she loved him. Maybe she would have complained about the hospital coffee. Whatever it would have been belonged to them. Amy had taken the decision because she thought everybody else was too fragile to handle it. Then I looked at my own handwriting again, asked if Mike knows she's here. I had been sitting beside Margaret when she asked. I had gone home anyway. I had let Amy stay. I had not called Michael. Not because I believed Margaret was confused, because part of me did not want Michael entering those final hours. I had never said that aloud. I did not need to. Families are good at learning the rules nobody admits exist. Amy, she sniffed. Yes? I could have called him too. Silence. I was there when she asked about him. You were exhausted. So were you. You didn't know what she texted him. I knew enough. Dad, no. I rubbed my eyes. I am not taking your decision away by pretending I had nothing to do with the family that produced it. She did not speak. I made you the person who handled Michael because I did not want to. That doesn't make what I did okay. No. I took Mom's phone. Yes. I saw his call. Yes. I should have answered. Yes. Each answer hurt both of us. Then Amy said, that is why I couldn't give you the letter. I looked at Margaret's pages on this table. Because she told you to stop standing in the hallway. Yes. And you knew what you'd done? Yes. Then Michael's envelope arrived. Yes. With the messages. And the photograph. And you panicked. Yes. So you took it. Yes. And canceled Christmas. Yes. Because if I talked to Michael directly, I might learn all of this. A long pause. Then, yes. That was the deepest truth. Not that Amy believed I was confused. She knew I wasn't. The word had become a tool, a gentle-sounding word that let her overrule people while telling herself she was protecting them. Margaret, Michael, me, and probably in smaller ways, Lily. Amy had started as the family member who cleaned up after everyone else's worst moments. Then she became afraid of what happened when anyone made a choice she could not control. I should have been furious. I was. But underneath that was something worse. Grief. My wife had wanted to speak to her son. My son had wanted to speak to his mother. My daughter stopped the call, and I had been close enough to prevent the whole thing if I had been willing to make one uncomfortable phone call myself. Nobody could repair that. Not Christmas, not an apology, not 14 pages of screenshots. I told Amy I needed time. She said she understood. For once, I answered differently. No, don't tell me what you think I need. She went silent. I'll tell you. All right. That is what has to change. After we hung up, I sat beside Margaret's old phone until the screen went dark. Then I sent 3 separate messages. One to Amy, one to Michael, one to Lily. The wording was identical. Christmas Eve dinner is canceled. Not because anyone is confused, dangerous, forgiven, or unwelcome. I need one day without this family making decisions for people who are not in the room. I'll call each of you tomorrow, separately. Then I called Scott and June and told them the same thing. No gathering. No forced reunion. No symbolic empty chair. I had spent 3 days trying to save Christmas. Now, I understood Christmas was not what needed saving. The thing worth protecting was smaller and harder. The right of each person in this family to speak for themselves before somebody who loved them decided what they were able to handle. The next morning, I made 4 phone calls. Not a family meeting, not yet. 4 separate conversations. I started with Lily. I need you to do something for me, okay? Stop carrying messages between your mother, Michael, and me. She went quiet. I wasn't trying to... I know, I softened my voice. You were trying to reconnect people you love. Yes, that is not a crime. A small laugh. But you're 19. You should not be responsible for whether 3 adults in their 40s and 70s know how to use a telephone. That got a real laugh. Then I said, if you want a relationship with Michael, that is between you and Michael. Mom won't like that. Your mother is allowed not to like it. She thinks I'm choosing him. Then tell her you're choosing yourself. Lily was quiet. Grandma would say that. She probably would. Then I asked her one question. Did your mother ever tell you I had been diagnosed with anything affecting my memory? No. Did she ever say a doctor was concerned? No. Did she ever tell you about specific incidents other than the Michael conversation? She said you'd been forgetting little things, such as Thanksgiving, Scott's name, 2 glasses of wine, wrong brother-in-law. I almost smiled. Anything else? She said you asked her twice what time we were coming Christmas Eve. That was true. Once because I forgot. Once because I wanted to know whether Scott planned to watch the Bengals game at my house. Anything else? No. Good. Why? Because I need to know whether your mother was genuinely worried about my health, or whether she needed an explanation everyone would accept. Lily did not answer. She did not have to. My second call was June. She answered with, I have decided your family is exhausting. You are part of my family. I married out emotionally years ago. Congratulations. What do you need? What exactly did Amy tell you Monday? June became serious. That you were getting confused. Exact words. I don't remember exact. Close. She said, Dad has been mixing things up lately, and I don't want Christmas to turn into something upsetting. Did she mention a doctor? No. Diagnosis? No. Safety issue? No. Did you believe her? June sighed. For about 5 minutes. Why only 5? Because I know you. That is not medical evidence. No. What changed your mind? She made it sound like this had been building for weeks. Yes. But when I asked what you'd done, the only actual example she gave me was Michael. I wrote that down. Not because I needed to trap Amy. Because vague concerns become strangely powerful when nobody asks what they are made of. Then I called Scott. I need your help. That feels dangerous. Did Amy believe I was developing a cognitive problem before this week? He took longer than Lily or June. That's not easy to answer. Try. She had mentioned that you were getting more forgetful. When? Last couple months. What examples? Losing your glasses? Repeating a question? I once spent 20 minutes looking for glasses that were on my head. That was pretty impressive. Margaret photographed it. I remember. Anything that scared you? No. Anything that made you think I shouldn't host Christmas? No. Anything that made you think I couldn't decide whether to see Michael? Scott went quiet. No. That mattered. Did Amy ever use the word confused about me before Michael contacted her Sunday? Another pause. Not that I remember. There, I wrote it down. Finally, I called Michael. I need one thing from you before we all talk again. What? You do not get to use what Amy did to erase what you did. Silence. Then, okay, I mean it. I know. You frightened Lily. Yes. You shoved Scott. Yes. You put Margaret in the middle of your recovery more than once. Yes. You missed her funeral partly because Amy discouraged you and partly because you were afraid to face me. Yes. You nearly drank afterward. Yes. You had a chance to call me directly for years, he breathed out. Yes. If we sit in a room together and you turn Amy into the person who stole 7 years from you, I will stop the conversation. I understand. Do you? Yes. His voice was quiet. She stole some choices. That is different. I know. Good. Then I told him what I planned. Friday, 2 o'clock. My house. Who? You, Amy, Scott, Lily, June if she wants to be there. That sounds like a tribunal. It isn't. What is it? A correction. He waited. I am not spending another year with 6 people carrying 6 versions of the same history. Michael did not argue. Christmas Eve passed quietly. I cooked the ham anyway. That was less symbolic than practical. A 9-pound ham does not care about family conflict. June came over at noon on Christmas Day, not for a formal meal. She brought rolls. We ate at the kitchen table. No good plates, no Christmas music. At one point she looked toward the unused dining room. You all right? Yes. Actual yes? I thought about it. No. Better. We ate. That was enough. Friday afternoon, everybody arrived within 15 minutes of each other. Amy and Scott came first. Lily drove separately. Michael arrived last. June took the chair nearest the coffee because she said witnesses deserved refreshments. I had put one sheet of paper at each seat. No dramatic folders, no photographs spread across the table. Just a timeline. Dates, times, short descriptions. I stood at the end of the dining table. The 6 place settings were gone. The Christmas runner remained. I'm not asking anyone to agree about how they felt. Nobody spoke. I'm asking us to agree about what happened. Amy looked at the paper. I continued. 7 years ago, Michael showed up at Amy's house after drinking. He had car keys. Scott stopped him from taking Lily anywhere. Michael shoved Scott. Lily saw it. Michael said, yes. Scott nodded. No debate. Michael entered treatment. Later, he relapsed for 6 days. Amy helped him get back into treatment. Yes, Michael said. Amy looked at him, then down. After he was sober again, Margaret wanted contact. I pointed to the next dates. Amy helped arrange that contact. Michael nodded. So did Margaret. Yes. Amy took the hospital photograph. Yes, Amy said. She encouraged Michael to send me a birthday card. Another quiet, yes. I looked around the table. That matters because I was wrong about something. Everybody looked at me. I thought for several days that Amy had spent years keeping Michael away. Amy's face changed. She didn't. No one spoke. She did something more complicated. I pointed to the next entries. She started as the person keeping contact possible while protecting the rest of us from Michael's worst behavior. Scott looked at her. Amy's eyes filled. Then the family got used to making her the person who decided what contact was safe. I looked at Michael. You called her instead of me. Yes. I looked at myself, though obviously that required no eye contact. Margaret called her after arguments she should have had with me. Then June. I asked Amy what everybody was thinking rather than asking them directly. June muttered, you always did that. Helpful. She shrugged. I continued. Then Margaret got sick, and Amy became appointment manager, meal coordinator, driver, daughter, sister, mother, and messenger. Amy started crying. Quietly. I let her. The problem is that being responsible for too many things does not give you ownership over other people's choices. Amy nodded. No, I pointed to the hospital timeline. At 6:43, Margaret texted Michael asking him to call. Nobody moved. At 7:05, I wrote in my own notebook that she was awake, clear, asking about the children, and asking whether Michael knew she was in the hospital. Michael stared at the page. At 8:31, Margaret asked Amy whether Michael had called. Amy closed her eyes. She told Amy she needed her children more than she needed sleep. Lily covered her mouth. I kept my voice level. That night, Amy told Michael Margaret was confused. Amy whispered, yes. Was she? No. There it was, in front of everyone, not accusation, admission. The next morning at 8:20, Michael called. Amy was crying openly now. She had Margaret's phone. Scott turned toward her. That detail was apparently new to him. You had her phone? Amy nodded. I took it home by accident. And when he called? I saw it. Scott's face changed. You never told me that. No. Why? Amy wiped her face. Because I was ashamed. Nobody rescued her from the silence. I continued. She did call Michael later. By then, Margaret's breathing had worsened. Michael stared at the timeline. What time? Amy? She answered. After 10. His jaw tightened. I watched him. Do not turn this into 7 years. He looked at me. She took the last call? Yes. One call. One important call. His eyes filled. I continued. She did not take your recovery from you. She did not cause the drinking. She did not cause the driveway incident. She did not make you afraid to call me. Michael looked down. No. That was the point of the whole afternoon. Truth without exaggeration. Then we reached Margaret's letter. Amy said it before I did. I kept it. Scott looked at her again. For almost 2 years? Yes. Why? Because Mom told Dad that too much of the family had been happening through me. Her voice shook. And by the time I read it with her, I already knew I'd stopped Michael's call, Lily said softly. So you knew Grandma was telling you to stop? Yes. And you didn't? Amy looked at her daughter. No. That hurt more than anything I could have said. Then I reached the final section. Sunday night, 11:38, Michael leaves the envelope. 11:40 approximately, he texts Amy. 11:56, Amy arrives. 12:04, she leaves with the envelope and photograph. Monday morning, 8:14, she calls me and cancels Christmas. I looked at Amy. Why did you tell everyone I was confused? She stared at the paper. Nobody moved. Finally, she said, because if I said Dad was confused, everybody would stop arguing with me about whether Christmas should happen. Scott closed his eyes. Amy continued. And because if he read Michael's envelope, he would learn about Mom's letter. Her voice broke. And the hospital call. So were you worried I might have a medical problem? I asked it carefully. Amy looked directly at me. No, that was the correction I needed. Did you believe I had forgotten inviting Michael? No. Did I invite him before you canceled Christmas? No. Did Lily tell you I had? No. Then why tell her that? I didn't tell Lily you said it. Lily looked up. Amy corrected herself immediately. I implied it. How? I said Grandpa was mixed up about the plans. Lily stared at her mother. Amy continued. I wanted you to stop trying to bring Michael back into Christmas. Why not just tell me that? Lily asked. Because you would have argued. Lily's eyes filled. That's what Grandpa said you do. Amy flinched. I stepped in. No. Everybody looked at me. We are not replacing one family label with another. Lily looked away. Amy did not do this because she enjoys controlling people. I looked at my daughter. She did it because for years we rewarded her for preventing bad outcomes. Scott nodded slowly. Until she started believing preventing a bad outcome mattered more than asking who was entitled to choose. Amy whispered, Yes. I sat down. For the first time all afternoon. Here is what changes. Nobody spoke. No more messengers unless someone is in the hospital and physically cannot speak. June raised a finger. Can I still gossip? Yes. That is apparently constitutional. She lowered her hand. A few people laughed. Small, necessary. If Michael wants to talk to me, he calls me. Michael nodded. If Amy is worried about my memory, she talks to me and gives me specific facts. If she thinks it is medical, she can ask me to see my doctor. Amy nodded. She does not announce a diagnosis to the family that does not exist. No. If Lily wants to see Michael, she makes that decision herself. Amy's mouth tightened. I saw it. So long as she is safe. Amy looked at her daughter. Lily said, I am. Michael spoke before anyone else could. And if I ever show up drinking, leave. Lily looked at him. Immediately? Yes. Okay. Scott nodded once. That was accountability without ceremony. Then I looked at Amy. One more thing. She waited. You need to correct the story you told. To who? Everyone who heard it. Dad? No, not loud, just final. You used my mental condition as a reason other people should stop listening to me. Her face crumpled. I know. Then you tell them it was not true. She nodded. I will. Not because I needed an apology tour. Because once a family starts treating an older person's memory as negotiable, a quiet correction is not enough. Facts needed the same audience the lie received. The meeting lasted another hour. There was no reconciliation speech. Michael apologized to Scott without adding a sentence about how long ago it happened. Scott accepted the apology without promising trust. Lily told Amy she still loved her and was still angry. June told all of us Margaret would have hated the meeting and then secretly loved knowing we finally held one. When everyone left, Amy stayed behind. We stood on the porch. The camera above us blinked once. She noticed. That thing really caused me trouble. No, I looked at her. You caused you trouble. She gave a tired laugh. Fair. Then she became serious. What happens with us? I thought about it. I don't know yet. She nodded. For once, she did not tell me what that meant. She did not interpret my uncertainty. She let it belong to me. After she drove away, I opened the camera app and looked at the porch recording from Sunday one last time. Michael leaving the envelope, Amy retrieving it. Two people acting around me because neither trusted what would happen if I simply received the truth. I saved the file to a folder. Then I disabled the favorite marker. I no longer needed to watch it. The camera had shown me why Christmas disappeared. The harder part had been understanding why my daughter believed she had the right to make it disappear. Now everybody knew. What happened next would not depend on another clue. It would depend on whether we could live differently after the clue had done its job. It took longer than I expected. Not because anyone denied what had happened, because knowing the truth and changing a family habit are different jobs. Amy sent the correction that evening, not just to June, to Scott, Lily, Michael, and two cousins she had apparently told when they asked why Christmas Eve was canceled. She copied me. I need to correct something I said about Dad. He was not confused about Michael coming to Christmas, and I had no medical reason to suggest he was having memory problems. I canceled Christmas because I was afraid of what would happen if Dad and Michael spoke directly, and I used Dad's memory as an explanation because I thought people would accept it without arguing. That was wrong. There was more. An apology, no excuses, no mention of how difficult Michael had once been, no reminder that I occasionally misplaced my glasses. I appreciated that. Michael responded only, "Thank you for correcting it." June wrote, "Good." Now, everybody stopped using group texts like federal testimony. That helped. Lily did not answer at all. Her anger with Amy lasted longer than mine in some ways. At 19, she had discovered that one of the adults she trusted most had manipulated what she knew about another adult she had barely been allowed to know. That was a different injury. I did not tell her to forgive her mother. I told Amy not to demand forgiveness either. For the first few weeks, she did something I had rarely seen her do. She waited. She stopped calling Lily twice a day to check whether things were okay. She stopped asking Scott what Lily was saying about her. When she wanted to know something, she asked Lily herself. Sometimes Lily answered. Sometimes she said, "I don't want to talk about it." Amy learned to leave that sentence alone. That may have been the hardest consequence for her. Not losing Christmas, not being exposed, having to sit beside uncertainty without immediately organizing it. Michael and I started with breakfast every other Saturday. Neutral territory. A diner in Westerville where the coffee was better than hospital coffee and worse than coffee had any legal right to be. We did not discuss 7 lost years every time. That would have guaranteed an 8th. He told me about work. Industrial pumps, safety equipment, customers who expected overnight shipping on items the size of refrigerators. I told him about my retirement. He was surprised I still met some of the old dispatch guys. I was surprised he had taken up cycling. On purpose? Yes. You own one of those shirts? Several. I may have been wrong to invite you back into my life. He laughed. That sound had not changed. The first time it happened, I had to look down at my coffee. Some grief is not for the dead. Sometimes you grieve the years a living person was absent. We talked about his sobriety carefully. I stopped asking for proof every time the subject came up. He stopped treating questions as automatic accusations. He still went to meetings, still called his sponsor, still refused alcohol, including the bourbon cake June brought to Easter, and insisted was mostly cooked off. Michael looked at the cake, then at June. Aunt June. What? I'm 5 years sober. It's cake. It smells like a distillery. She took it home. That was progress too. In February, Michael and I went to Margaret's grave together. Neither of us had planned it as a ceremony. We had breakfast. He mentioned he had not been there since the morning after her funeral. I said, "We can go now." So we did. There was snow crusted along the cemetery road. Michael stood with his hands in his coat pockets. For a while, neither of us said anything. Then he told her he was sorry he missed the funeral. I did not interrupt by explaining why. He knew why. So did I. Then he said, "I'm sorry I didn't call Dad myself. That one was for me." I looked at the stone. Margaret Brooks. Wife. Mother. Grandmother. Nothing carved there about being the woman who spent 20 years trying to translate 2 stubborn men into a language the other could tolerate. "I should have called you," I said. Michael nodded. "I know." It was exactly the kind of answer that once would have started a fight. Instead, I laughed. He did too. Margaret would have enjoyed that. Amy and I took longer. She came over one Sunday in March carrying a folder. I saw it and immediately said, "No." She stopped in the doorway. "What?" "If that is paperwork designed to improve my life, turn around." For half a second, she looked hurt. Then she laughed. No, she held it up. Medical information. That is worse. It's mine. That changed things. She had started counseling. I did not ask what she discussed there. She volunteered only one part. Well, my therapist says I confuse helping with preventing. I thought about that. Preventing what? Anything I think I'll have to clean up afterward. That sounded accurate. She sat at the kitchen table. I think I learned it early. With Michael? With everyone. She smiled sadly. Mom used to ask me to remind you about things because you'd listen better if I said them. I remembered. Doctor appointments, birthday gifts, a leaking dishwasher Margaret wanted replaced before I considered it sufficiently dead. She did. And when Michael screwed up, she'd ask me to talk to him because he got defensive with her. Yes. And then everybody started treating me like family air traffic control. I almost corrected the metaphor. Dispatch and air traffic control are different professions. I managed not to. What do you want from me? Nothing. I waited. That is new. I know. She folded her hands. I just wanted you to know I'm trying to understand why I did it. I know why you did part of it. She looked at me. You were scared. Yes. You were tired. Yes. You were used to being right often enough that people rewarded you for deciding quickly. Her eyes filled. Yes? Then you crossed a line. I know. I let the silence sit. She did not rush to fill it. That was new too. Then I said, I made a doctor's appointment. Her face changed immediately. For what? I raised one finger. She stopped. Do not manage. She closed her mouth. I asked my primary care doctor for a routine cognitive baseline. Amy stared at me. Because of what I said? Partly. Dad, I told you I made it up. I know. Then you don't need... She caught herself. Stopped. Tried again. Why did you decide to do it? Better. Because I'm 70. She waited. And because someday I may actually become confused. That impossibility had been underneath everything whether I liked it or not. Age did not make me incompetent. It also did not make me immortal or exempt from change. I don't want this family learning the difference between forgetfulness and impairment during another argument. Amy nodded. That makes sense. The appointment was boring. Exactly what I wanted. My doctor asked questions, had me remember words, draw a clock, discuss medications, sleep, hearing, mood. Nothing raised concern. He documented the baseline and told me to come back if I or someone close to me noticed meaningful changes in judgment, function, or memory. I gave Amy a copy, not because she had earned supervision rights, because I wanted one.